All right, hello, wine-drinking people. Today is Thursday, April 14th. A lot of good drinking in the store yesterday, let me tell you, man. You know it is going to be a good day when you've got the Chef de Cave, or one of the 8 Chef de Caves working for Veuve Clicquot scheduled first thing in the morning. Champagne for breakfast, buddy. And champagne for lunch, champagne for dinner, champagne for after dinner. One of the things I love about champagne is you can serve it at any point in the day, and it is perfectly appropriate. It goes with many different kinds of food, and to me, there ain't no bad champagne. I mean, there may be houses, styles that you don't like. Veuve Clicquot's a little sweet. Well, I mean, to me, all champagne needs a little bit of dosage. This rage today of, these champagnes with no dosage, the very, very dry, champagnes with hardly any residual sugar, if they just pick the grapes a little later or whatever. But, to me, it's so acidic, champagne is, that you need a little residual sugar to balance it out. So maybe with certain foods, with certain dishes, those dry champagnes work. But for me, hey, Veuve Clicquot doesn't even make one. Okay, well, this is the most popular champagne house in, South Florida, one of the most popular in the world, and, they really don't need to be trendy. They can just pretty much do what they've been doing. They're successful, and, I'll never forget the year 2000 when, our salesman came to us and said, "We're out of Veuve Clicquot." I said, "Oh, really? You're out for the end of the year, this year 2000 thing? I don't know if you guys heard about this. We're going to run out of champagne." BJ's and Costco bought all of it. He went into any BJ or Costco. They had stacks of Veuve Clicquot up to the ceiling. And the reps for Southern were buying it from BJ and Costco to put into their key accounts that were serving it by the glass, that you do not want to lose your pour in champagne by the glass in a restaurant, because you know what? They'll replace it and you'll never get it back, or you won't get it back for a long time. So, they were scrambling because they'd oversold Veuve Clicquot to all these chain stores because they just let anybody buy as much as they wanted to. Hey, that's what their job is in distribution, right? Sell it. It's not our job to allocate it. Well, actually, it is. And trust me, that didn't happen again next year or any following year. But, there wasn't any buzz that champagne was going to run out. All right, enough of that. We started out with our classic champagne. Well, actually, the gentleman, Pierre Cazenave, who was the newest of all the winemakers. Like I said, there's 8 of them at Veuve Clicquot. So, the hardest job in the winemaking profession is to be a chef de cave, a winemaker, because these champagnes, sometimes they have to taste through 400 different lots like it takes to make Veuve Clicquot. And they have to assemble them every year and make something that is consistent year in and year out. And 90% of the champagne in a non-vintage Brut usually is from one vintage, and they use like 10% reserve wines from older vintages just to kind of keep it consistent. But you never know what vintage you're getting. Most of the ones in the store today are 04, 03, 02, or 05, 04, etc. Because you have to keep them 2 or 3 years on tirage before you release the wines, and some people keep them in the bottle another couple years. So I guess we'd be on to 06 or 07 maybe base at this point. But some great champagnes from Veuve Clicquot. This is a style that is mainly a Pinot Noir house. Most all their blends are predominantly Pinot Noir, and the Veuve Clicquot Brut is about 55% Pinot Noir, 35% Chardonnay, 15% Pinot Meunier, and 15% from the last 5 years, and 10% older vintages, and then the rest of the stuff, like I said, the current release. So this had a bouquet of lovely fresh apples, pears, quince, and a touch of candied ginger. The Montagne de Reims and the Côte de Blanc supply like 25 to 35% of the estate fruit that go into this. The rest is purchased fruits, and Veuve Clicquot is so big, I don't think there's any way they could supply all of their fruit with estate vineyards, and most of these bigger producers from Champagne do buy a lot of their juice. They don't own all the land. There's a lot of small growers in Champagne that don't have the ability to market and sell their product. But this wine's got about 10 grams of residual sugar, so definitely on the sweeter side, but a lovely creamy mousse and very well balanced, even though it's got 10 grams of sugar. They just changed the law, by the way. Brut was 15 grams per liter, and now it's 12 grams, but they give you a 3% leeway, so I don't know what they've changed. So kind of interesting. Nicely balanced, as I mentioned before, a little bit of that quince and this orange blossom kind of showing at the finish. A very good champagne. Like I said, there's no bad champagne. You can make fun of Veuve Clicquot because it's popular, but still a very nice bottle of bubbly. All right, next up, the rosé. Same blend as the non-vintage yellow, but 15% red wine is added to make it rosé. And the first vintage, 1775, they say they're the first producer to make a rosé sparkler. A lot of these champagne houses claim to be the first or this or that or whatever. But raspberry and strawberry-like fruit on the nose, notes of flowers, and the red wine is from Boozy here, by the way. Bigger bubbles seem to be, a little more coarse on the tongue. Nice plum and raspberry fruit showing, a lovely creamy mousse again, and a very easy drinking style of rosé. Lovely balance and concentration. Maybe just a hint of bitterness on the finish there, though. Excellent. Next up, the 2002 Vintage Brut. And this is 2/3 Pinot Noir and the rest Chardonnay and about 10% Pinot Meunier. Picked really ripe, lots of tropical fruit, candied fruit, a little yeasty, kind of fresh leavened bread note with a tint of hazelnut. This 02 vintage, an outstanding vintage for champagne. Lovely concentration and depth here. A little bit of that nuttiness and a little mocha kind of chocolate nuance on the finish. Really nice. Next up, the 04 Vintage Brut. Big yield, huge concentration here. Likes black raspberry and black currant fruit. A hint of sherry kind of in the nose there too. Percentage of Pinot Meunier is reduced in this wine, and it's a blend of about 30 different wines instead of 400. So their vintage rosé considerably easier to make. You think it's more expensive. It's better, higher quality, but easier to make because less of the cuvées go into this, only at the top cuvées. Lovely richness on the palate again, had that lovely toasty, kind of almost oaky quality to it, but no oak in this wine, just that richness from the leaves and that Chardonnay showing there. Okay, next up, the granddaddy of them all, the Le Grand Dame, and this 98, a great vintage for Chardonnay, and that really showing through there. It's all estate bottled, 100% Grand Cru from their vineyards, and no Pinot Meunier. They don't have any Pinot Meunier in the Grand Cru rated vineyards of Champagne, so that's left out. About 36% Chardonnay, 64% Pinot Noir in this blend. Very complex bouquet, candied ginger, toasted hazelnuts, Asian pear, really exotic, and a lovely fine creamy mousse on the tongue with wonderful intensity and piercing acidity. One of the things that you need for champagne to age a long time, and even though they say it's released when it's ready to drink, you can keep champagnes like Le Grand Dame 10, 20 years or more in your cellar. All right, folks, that's how my day started out. Next up, some good friends from Constellation Brands with another good friend, Robert Mondavi.